knows how bad ArcReader can be. In addition, a lot of the data was still shapefiles, so it was painful to pull over the network, and they were large data sets. In addition, like many oil and gas companies, we were using products like GIS, or geographics rather, sorry, and ArcMap. ArcGIS was implemented, but it wasn't really done properly. They had a third-party contractor that was maintaining it for them, and it wasn't working right at the time. And they had an instance of ArcGIS server, but it was heavily underutilized. So things started to change lead up to this. A little over 3 years ago now, the decision was made that GIS was underutilized, as I said previously. We had a concern that every department was kind of starting to do their own thing spatially. Everybody was using their flavor of the week software product, and things were becoming very scattered. Data was everywhere. And we decided that to migrate all the GIS staff from the various departments that had hired GIS people to one department, so we all were under a geomatics umbrella going forward. And that encompasses surveying, and it also encompasses a lot of our permitting at SENECA, because we do a lot of the field work already, so we do a lot of the permitting as well in our department. We also had full support of the IT staff. The IT director basically handed the keys over. We have full control over our servers. Basically, the only thing we rely on IT for day-to-day is server provisioning and VM. Other than that, we are completely autonomous of IT. They let us maintain our servers up to and including Windows patches. So the next thing we did after we got everybody on board was we looked at SDE and threw it out. Everything that we had, started over. Rebuilt everything. All of our data sets were rebuilt because they were migrated from other products. They were migrated from geographics. They were migrated from Horizon. And the field types and data types didn't fit. So we cleaned everything up, started from scratch. And like I said, we rebuilt the legacy data sets. The next thing we did was we like to keep things internal as much as possible so we can administer them ourselves. So we purchased the data appliance, which is basically a duplication of ArcGIS Online Space services, but it runs in-house, so you get better performance. And the next thing we did, and I'm sure many companies are either at this stage right now or are considering something along these lines, hopefully not Flex anymore. But we had a Flex application. So at this point, we were kind of up to a 4-server environment. Our Brookville field office had a replicated data set from the Pittsburgh office. We were running ArcGIS server, the data appliance, and an ArcGIS server to support the Flex application. And the next step, and this is something we presented last year here, we introduced iterations of daily syncs from geographics, and we've actually expanded that beyond geographics, and we're now pulling data from WellView, and we're also pulling data from our production environment, so we're pulling real-time information from our servers, our SCADA servers. And all that runs as scheduled tasks or in real time. So this is our Flex application. It still exists right now. We're in the process of migrating it to the new JavaScript environment that Esri's provided. We're working with a third-party consultant on that right now, but we are migrating this over. With LandMapper, it brought a lot of changes. It started out as a tool for the land department, hence LandMapper. But pretty soon working it out, and everybody was using it in every department. So we were constantly getting requests to add data sets to it, and it became a monster. It literally has close to 100 data sets in it. The Flex application can handle it beautifully as long as you don't have those all turned on at one time when you start the app. So LandMapper had its own, an ArcGIS server, that stack had its own set of limitations. Flash application, Flex Builder, can't run it on a mobile device. Only worked on the intranet. So that was a problem because we have field workers, and we want our field workers to be able to use the best information at any given time so that they're making the proper decisions based on the best information available. And as I said, it became apparent very quickly as we started deploying more GIS tools to our staff that we needed to provide a way for them to access the information on the site. We started getting requests for simpler land mappers because there was too much information and people just did not want to scroll through that list of data sets. needed a way to let our field collectors communicate back to our servers in real time and then being able to work offline. So we all sat down last spring and identified ArcGIS Online for organizations that addressed most of our issues. We had buy-in at the VP level from several departments that were heavily using GIS, and IT was on board reluctantly. They didn't like the idea of people having to use an external resource at the time. So we started exploring it, and like I said, the plan was to leverage new web adapter technology at that time and make a direct connection to ArcGIS Online from our server, limiting the connection to Esri addresses only so that it could only be accessed from ArcGIS Online. IT, like I said, had reservations about employees having to use an external source and having 2 usernames, 2 passwords. This was before you could hook your Active Directory into ArcGIS Online. But ultimately, they were okay with it. So this is our plan until last year's UC, when Esri announced Portal was going to become part of the ArcGIS server stack. So this alleviated a lot of concerns about IT and their security concerns. We were able to lock everything into our system, run it internally on our server infrastructure, which we have abundance of. And it also let us, like I said, basically it allows you to set up your own ArcGIS Online instance on your infrastructure. So there's a lot of similarity. I find I've done this a couple times now, and you always get the question of what is different and what's the same about ArcGIS Online and Portal. So ArcGIS Online and Portal really are meant to manage your geospatial content and make it available to everybody in your company. It gives access to a common set of base maps, tools, and web services, again, for everybody. Creates maps and applications, allows you to share them. I'm not going to read all this. You can add it, and it'll be available online. So basically, there's a lot of tools, and there's a lot of similarities between ArcGIS Online and Portal. Now, the next question I always get is why ArcGIS Online over Portal? That's a question that you have to answer yourself, but the differences I've found over the past year. Portal's on-site. ArcGIS Online is a cloud service, software as a service. Portal you maintain, ArcGIS Online as we maintain. Portal you can be restricted to internal access only. You can set it up so that it only works on your intranet, or you can set it up so that it's available externally. ArcGIS Online obviously is external access. Portal is usually a version behind ArcGIS Online. And Esri, obviously, ArcGIS Online is the most up-to-date, newest toys. Portal, you're unlimited usage based on licensing, whereas with ArcGIS Online, you have credits. So many credits for so many users. So if you have 100 users, you have 50 users, you have 10,000 credits or something like that. And those credits count towards geo-processing and publishing and different functions that happen on ArcGIS Online. It costs server time. So some things I've come across when I was working on ArcGIS Online, or Portal, and getting it deployed. Make sure you read the documentation thoroughly. Be ready to make mistakes. When we were doing this, VMware was my friend. Being able to roll back a day when we were learning how to deploy this properly saved my butt on many occasions. Saved me a lot of time. Again, read the documentation. SSL, I recommend making sure you have somebody in your organization or IT has a consultant that understands SSL certification. It can be a little tricky to get it implemented properly internally so that your servers can talk to each other properly. Read the documentation. If I haven't stressed it enough, read the documentation thoroughly. And don't be afraid to use your customer support when you need stuff. So security. This is a big deal. Our portal is externally accessible. I can bring it up on this computer and we can get an internet connection working properly for it. That's a big concern. That all of our GIS data is exposed to a front end. It's not a public front end, but it is a front end that's accessible outside the company. So we're hooking into our Active Directory, and that guarantees that only SENECA employees can connect. If you do not have an active, valid SENECA employee ID, you won't even be able to make it to the portal. You get dumped to a 404 error, or a 401, sorry. I'm not really an IT guru. Same rules are enforced for internal and external access. So just because you're inside doesn't mean that you can't connect securely. You still have to connect over SSL and HTTP. External traffic is restricted to port 443 or an HTTPS connection. So no connectivity over just a standard HTTP connection, which is very critical. It's just another safeguard to put on your front end firewall. Between the internet and the web adapter server, we have a firewall blocking all ports except for those used by web adapter and ArcGIS server. So again, there's another step of security that the only thing that's between, that's kind of externally accessible is your web adapter. And it's stuck between two firewalls. And then this isn't something that Esri puts in any documentation, but web adapter acts as a reverse proxy, which makes IT happy. So basically, you send a request to the web adapter, and then the web adapter translates it and sends it to the right machine, so nobody actually ever directly connects to your servers. There's always a step between. And if you're not authorized, they catch it. It puts multiple steps of catching it. So a picture's worth 1,000 words. I talked about all that, and it sounds like a bunch of gibberish to probably half the people in the room, and sometimes to me too. So basically what we have going on, and I thought I saw a laser pointer, but maybe not. Nope. Anyways,
Josh.
I thought I saw one being fired off earlier. Oh, wrong way. So basically what we have is our traditional SDE environments down here. It's replicated, actually now it's replicated to Houston as well, which is our main corporate office for our company. We have 5 main databases. All of those are, again, replicated nightly. And then we have our data NAS storage, which stores all of our base map imagery, including the data appliance data and our internal data that we either process from sources like PA-MAP or USDA. And that talks to our server cluster, which is actually 4 servers now. With VM, it's actually better to split your servers up and have 2 core servers and 8 gigs of RAM on each one than it is to have one big server. It runs better on a VM environment, so you run more servers, more small servers instead of one big one. So basically it's the same thing though. It runs as a site, so it's clustered together. So it still works as one machine, technically, to the end user or to your GIS staff. And then they talk to the portal server. Everything goes through the web adapter, and that's only open through our firewall at port 443, and that gives connectivity to everything else. So that's basically what I said on the other slide. Put it on. So what's next? We've done all this so far, and we've built this infrastructure. We're working on integrating additional company data sources. So we started working with Review and Wellview to pull well and rig data. We actually have achieved a lot of that now. And we're also looking into other internal systems like our SCADA systems for real-time information. We're planning on using the web application builder that Esri's launched and deployed. I think it's still in beta technically. We're working on using that to replace our Flex application. It's JavaScript based, so HTML5 it'll work on anything. And then filling user needs. Our users are the ones that come up with what we do next. We tend to throw out samples and let people give us information and feedback and then tell us what they actually need. You'd be surprised how much usage we have. I actually looked it up today. Wrote it down. So, we launched this 6 months ago. And in the past, in the last 6 months, this is not including the geomatics department. My users, which is my company, have created over 3,500 maps in 6 months. We have 822 layers published to Portal. Of those, only 400 are published from the geomatics department. The other 422 are user-created layers, which is either somebody's taken a layer that geomatics has created and filtered it and customized it, or somebody has uploaded a shapefile that they want to see that may not be relevant to anybody else in the company, or something they only want to share with a small group in the company. But we've had over 400 layers created in 6 months on their own. Before we started this, our server had about 100,000 hits a day, our GIS server. we're about 500,000 a day now. That's just user requests hitting the server. So, does Portal benefit your staff? Absolutely. We have seen exponential growth in GIS usage since we've launched this. So this is what our portal looks like. Mark, is the internet going to work on this?
It should. Cabled in.
Let's take a look. So, okay. This is our landing page. And we have quick links over here for our SENECA employees to get to the SENECA portal. And we also have ArcGIS Online set up for our contractor access. We have an ArcGIS server set up for contractors and NFG, actually, to access our data, because they're not allowed to have direct connection to our data or share our data. So our employees can get to their portal from here. And as you can see, you're prompted with the Windows IWA credentials. If I were to type these in wrong, it wouldn't. It's actually cut my name in wrong. How about that? We'll figure it out. It's forcing me to use the domain. Might not let me in here, Mark. Let me try. Force the domain.
Our firewall may sense it's Seneca trying to get into our firewall.
Yeah.
I was going to say, wait till I turn on my key logging software.
There we go. I think that did the trick. I forced the domain. So again, this is our site. You can see we've done some things like key maps. It's something that Esri pushes, and we thought it was a good idea, so we ran with it. Dal's a big proponent of it, if you guys know Dal Hunter. So we have base maps that we've already created to give people a starting place. We're not saying that this is everything you need. If you need more, you can find it on Portal. But we've given users, based on departmental focus, access to base maps that are already created. So we have one for geology, and this shows my date. So we have one for land, we have one for environmental engineering. We have some other little toys here. Let's see if this guy's going to work. So we have a summary viewer running, and this is hooked into SCADA. Let's see if this is going to work now. I believe. Nobody. No, there it goes. Okay, so this is a really cool app. I don't know if you guys have seen it or not. It's on Heather's website for you to download. All you got to do is create a map on Portal, and then tell this web application what map to use. These are our MCF volumes right now, and if I zoom in, as I zoom in and out, we're apparently not using anything good right now. These numbers are recalculated on the fly. This is live from our SCADA system. All these numbers are real time. So I'll get out of there before you guys can see that. But we have that, and we also have we've tied into our well view, and we also have a table tied into our planning GIS. And this data, going back to user, so I always scroll the wrong way. Each one of these wells has all of our production information attached to it, both from well view or our future planning table. So we're able to pull up information for future planning too. It's all aggregated together into one web service. So this, like I said, this information not only has spud date, drill out date, and everything else for wells that are already done, but it also has them for wells that we have yet to drill or on the planned schedule. So, but like I said, a lot of this is user-generated content at this point. If I go into any user's folder, which I can do, I can pretty much find samples of data. So he has these maps. This gentleman actually is our pipeline manager, and he has his plans for our WDA area. Oh, that is the wrong map. He has the map for the WDA area, and he drew all of this himself. Instead of drawing on a topo map and getting it to GIS, and then us drawing it in GIS, and then him going back and marking it up and saying, well, this is wrong, this is wrong, and this is wrong. He drew all this himself. And we were able to just load this map into ArcMap and copy and paste the pipelines right into our pipeline layer, and then finish attributing without having to do any other work. We're able to take exactly what he intended to show. He was able to draw it exactly the way he intended to draw it, and there was no iterative back and forth. Saving hours and hours of time on a project like this between us and his department. So is Portal valuable? In my opinion, absolutely. Does Portal have some shortcomings? Absolutely. Is it a fix for everything? No. But I've found that, and SENECA has found the true value in using Portal. So at this time,